We'd like to start with some breaking news. Rapper Lil Durk is accused of killing someone. Plots for hire. Lil Durk, a well-known rap musician from Chicago whose actual name is Jerk Bank, is now incarcerated after a dramatic arrest in which officials claim he was involved in a high-level murder conspiracy. Chicago rapper Dirk Banks, better known by his stage name Lil Durk, was arrested yesterday after he was allegedly snitched by one of his closest friends who had been spying on him and reporting everything he did to the federal government for more than 2 years. The worst part is that Durk had been warned that he had a snitch in his crew. So join me today as we examine how evidence purportedly provided by Durk's own homie could see him rot in jail for a very long time. When 2024 began, Lil Durk was arguably having the best year of his career, with his song All My Life with J. Cole generating insane numbers on the streaming charts and Durk winning his first Grammy. At that point, it seemed like the end of the world for him, but now his year has quickly turned sour. Behind bars is being charged for his alleged involvement in the plot to kill Quando Rondo. In case you haven't heard, let me briefly explain how Durk ended up in this situation. Durk was arrested and charged with murder for hire plotting, which targeted Quando Rondo because of his alleged involvement in the conclusion. 5 members of Durk's OTF crew, Von D, Flocka Browns, and Boogie, were also detained by the Fed in Atlanta in 2012-0120 for their roles in an event that resulted in Q's cousin's death in 2022. Although Durk was not identified in the indictment that resulted in the arrest of his OTF crew, it is said that the 5 OTF guys set up a reward using a credit card connected to Durk's OTF label, then used the credit card to book an aircraft. Durk's crew was reportedly seeking retribution for King Von's murder. After finding out where he was staying, Fani flew himself on a PJ from Miami to California to supervise the entire operation. He made sure the crew had hotel rooms, cars, ski masks, and pretty much anything else they needed to carry out their plot, including renting the BMW and Infiniti sedans with the fictitious license plates the group allegedly used. They allegedly did find Quando in a car with his cousin and opened fire, but regrettably, Key's cousin was in the car. Was the one who was struck. Durk's gang swiftly left the scene, sat down quietly at an In-N-Out hamburger, and spoke about being paid for the hit they had just performed. The next day, you will see that they flew out of California. After finding out that his crew had been detained, Durk booked 2 tickets, one to Dubai and one to Switzerland. Durk has been strongly disputing that OTF is a gang, but this entire scenario sort of exposes that. After that, Durk reserved a PJ for Italy, but the feds arrived before he could get on board. This is where things get interesting. A week or so prior to his arrest, Durk lost his phone for unknown reasons. After Durk and his team were arrested, a rumor began to circulate that the feds had aided him from an informant close to him. The rumor swiftly intensified, and it was claimed that one of Durk's close friends, OTF JJ Jam, was the alleged informant. To make matters worse, images of OTF Jam in an interrogation room began to circulate, and Jam was spotted eating McDonald's, which made more people think Jam was the snitch. Rumor has it that Jam, who is presently incarcerated, has been wearing a wire around Durk for over 2 years. He also reportedly briefed the authorities about the specifics of the scheme that resulted in Durk and his fellow OTF members being arrested. DJ Scholars also commented on this rumor on Instagram with a caption. According to multiple online reports, OTF Jam, another OTF affiliate, may have worn wire in the case involving Durk and others. He allegedly served a 12-year prison sentence, returned home, and was arrested shortly after for possessing a gun, shortly after Durk purportedly gave him a $150,000 coming home gift.
Jam? Hey, so crazy though. Motherfucker sitting up there doing all this, sneak this and internet games and all this. Up some money, do something. Like, we winning, bro. I can do whatever it is I want to do, I can do it. Buy what I want, do what I want. Y'all can't do that, bro. Goof
Bro got out what?
You know that
How many you did it all?
In the years I did it now?
Yeah, that's your last bit. 12?
12.
That boy popped out 12 years.
Yeah.
So much money. We really was just getting that shit in order to just figure out the lanes, man, boy.
This shit feels so good, man. 2 lawyers, man.
I can tell him about the building you got?
Everything.
Man, it's closed on the building, man. We ain't f***ing around.
You know that we did it. It's our time, man.
But as it turns out, even though Durk showed love to Jam after he got out, things between the two were far from friendly. You see, when Jam got arrested, his baby mama allegedly reached out to Lil Durk to help Jam get a lawyer. However, Durk allegedly started ignoring calls from Jam's baby mama. This led to things getting pretty heated between the two, according to academics. Threats even started getting thrown around. I heard you say something about like his OTF Jam's baby mama called Durk for a lawyer, and Durk may have brushed it off, and they were like, yo, you're not supposed to brush off my call. When I need something, I'm the guy who does the dirt for you now. Jam is rumored to have began cooperating with the feds right after he got released, which was around the time that the whole incident that led to the passing away of Quanda Rando's cousin happened. Anyways, after this, Jam released a song where he allegedly spoke about how everything went down, from D.I. being the one with the weapon to Boogie being the guy that paid the crew, and even how Lil Durk put details of the incident in his song.
The crazy part about this is like maybe a couple hours ago, it's come out that they had wiretaps of Durk allegedly trying to clean up the people he think might tell. Now, if that...
What do you mean by clean up?
Okay.
That can be taken a few different ways.
No, they saying they got wiretaps, allegedly, that Durk is saying, get these people out the way.
Damn.
Now, if that's the case, we have a murder for hire, which carries life. Mm-hmm. Attempted murder for hire, because Quando's in the back seat.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was the intended target, by the way, Quando.
And whatever conspiracies for however many people he may have mentioned, right?
Due in part to Jam's betrayal, Durk is now in this predicament. What's even more bizarre is that 50 Cent forewarned Durk that one of his crew members was. In a recent interview with The Breakfast Club, 50 disclosed that he had met Durk once in New York and had noticed something strange about the guys Durk was hanging out with. 50 then told Durk to be cautious about who he interacted with and to keep an eye on himself around his crew. This revelation immediately caused Durk to question some of the things that had previously happened, such as the fact that in 2021, Durk was the victim of a home invasion that resulted in a nasty incident while he was in the house with his girlfriend. Started shooting at Durk's house and said that he was shocked at the time because he didn't give out his address to just anybody. Based on Durk's statements, it's reasonable to assume that Durk has had someone snitch on him because he lived in a gated community and didn't just tell people where he lived, which could only mean that it was a random break-in or that someone must have snitched. This was back in 2021, and the incident that led to his arrest occurred in 2022. Because OTF Jam only got out around 2022, he may even have multiple people working against him. As a result of Jam's alleged snitching, the feds are reportedly constructing a case against Lil Durk for being the mastermind and funding this entire situation. According to records from Durk's phone, he allegedly texted one of his OTF crew members, telling them not to book the fights under any name that could be linked to or traced back to him. If found guilty, Durk could spend a significant amount of time behind bars. Conspiracy is one of those charges that all it takes is voluntary knowledge, so as long as you had any conversation with 2 or more people about something, a plan to further this plot for hire, and it resulted in death. Durk could face either 10 years and a fine for any violation or 20 years and a fine if the murder for hire plot results in injury and life imprisonment, or the death penalty and $250,000 if someone was ended in the plot and Rondo's cousin got into U.S. Justice Department archives. It doesn't take much to be found guilty of conspiracy charges. However, they will need to prove that he voluntarily participated in the conspiracy and that he knew what the conspiracy's main goal was. That's the burden, but conspiracy charges don't cost as much as other charges, so this is a very serious crime, you all. Given the amount of time and effort the federal government has invested in this case, Louisiana Police Chief Dominic Choi hinted that they would like Durk to receive the maximum sentence of life in prison. Cases like this, which involve multiple states and jurisdictions, are complex and frequently require the cooperation of multiple departments. This arrest is the result of the combined efforts of our partners in the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, and LAPD's Operation West Bureau homicide detectives who found out that Lil Durk was a part of this horrible crime. The hundreds of hours spent on the investigation, which included surveillance, the authoring of multiple search warrants, the use of forensic technology, and constant investigative travel and cooperation with our federal partners, resulted in this arrest. I appreciate the hard work of everyone involved. It appears that the feds are attempting to bring Durk and OTF to heel because this is a very high-profile case and they will be trying to win, which could mean Durk's career is about to end. And just as he was starting to reach new musical heights following his Grammy win in February, it is still unknown whether Jam played a role in Lil Durk's demise, but this is one of those tales that will go on for a while and more startling details will surface anyhow. Do you think that OTF Jam was the snitch? Have we seen the end of Durk? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. This drama is far from over. If you thought Fulton was a good county to bring your crime and violence to, you're wrong, because I have nothing to add, nothing to run from, and what's good, Rizzle family? Von's name is still in the media, even though he hasn't been with us for a while, and most recently more new information about the incident that King Val and Lil Durk found themselves in back in the day. So watch our channel to stay up to date on all the latest developments in Lil Durk's case. The Fawn County D, Fani Willis, is on duty, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone knows how strict this lady is and how far she's willing to go in order to bring criminals to justice. Ever since she was appointed to the position of DA, she made a promise that she would lower the crime rate in Atlanta, and that's exactly what happened. In 2019, it appears that King Val was at fault, after all, and Durk was innocent. However, is there much more to that than this? To your knowledge, she may have prevented the infamous ESL Rico case. However, because of her determination, she was able to put Thugger, Gunna, and a number of other YSL crew members behind bars. But in addition, the judge in their cases has repeatedly refused to release them on bond because they simply don't want to be released before their trials start. At this point, the YSL group is by no means the only group under the criminal huntress Fani Willis for 1 month. If you thought Fulton was a good county to bring your crime or violence to, you're wrong. She's indicting people fearlessly, just as she said she would when she made her statement. Many people think that the entire Atlanta drill rap scene has actually calmed down a little bit ever since the fear of RICO indictments became a thing. You may recall this video. The Drill Gang is a hybrid gang that found their way into my county, Fulton County. Rappers thought it would be wise to put down all of the Draco and Blickies, but it appears that she can't get rid of everyone in her sphere of influence. A few days ago, it was announced that Fani Willis would drop the attempted murder charges against Lil Durk that had been pending since 2019. Naturally, she made a statement to the public shortly after making her decision, and this is what her spokesperson told the media. This office has denied to indict Derek Banks, also known as Lil Durk, for the February 5, 2019 incident because there is not enough evidence to convict him. The statement continues by stating that there is evidence to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt at trial and that King Val, not Durk, was the real culprit. The problem is that if co-defendant Devon Bennett, also known as King Val, had not passed away in 2020, he would have been charged with this crime, and the Atlanta Police Department had evidence to establish probable cause to arrest him. Therefore, the well-known case from 2019 in which Durk allegedly shot someone and the police had it captured on camera wasn't true, and it appears that they weren't entirely accurate with the story that. So what's up with that? Let's go back to 2019 and see what happened. In May of that year, a warrant was issued with Lil Durk's name written all over it, and he was set to be taken in due to his involvement in a shooting incident. According to reports, Durk wasn't alone in this mess. On February 5, 2019, he and his longtime friend, fellow rapper King Val, were involved in a murder attempt outside Atlanta's The Varsity restaurant, which resulted in the death of a man named Alexander Weatherspoon. He was rushed to the hospital after suffering a gunshot wound to his thigh in a drive-by incident, but he did not survive. He claimed that his chain was snatched off his neck, that $30,000 was stolen from him, and that the car he was driving was stolen. Additionally, it was claimed that Durk had robbed Alexander prior to the incident, taking his jewelry, his car, and $30,000 in cash. As you can imagine, Val and Durk were facing multiple charges, including aggravated assault and involvement in a criminal street gang, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Derek turned himself in to the police, claiming that he had nothing to flee and that he was not afraid, acting as though he had nothing to WR from. As we already know, that case ended. Durk and Von were eventually released on bond in the following year. In 2020, King Von tragically lost his life when he was shot down by Lil Tim following a fight with rapper Quando Rondo Lil Durk. Despite this, he still had the case pending. Things weren't settled on his end until Fani Willis made headlines. It appears that Durk avoided the case after all these years because all the rumors they had about him being the shooter of the victim on 5 different cameras were untrue. Otherwise, they would have been used against him. This whole situation is a little confusing, which is why it's not possible to indict Durk and claim that Von would have been charged if he had been alive when the incident occurred and Durk and Von were together that night and captured on camera. How could Fani Willis have been prepared to drop the charges against Durk and claim that Von was the real culprit? There appear to be 2 possible explanations for the ATL Police Department's actions at the moment. Either they re-examined the evidence and concluded that the individual in the car next to Von was not Lil Durk, in which case they were completely concerned about bringing Durk in, or more likely, considering that Von is no longer alive, they chose to blame him. However, at this point, these 2 possibilities seem to be the most likely. In any case, it appears that Durk's attorneys used the classic blame it on the dead tactic to get Durk out of trouble. This also indicates that Durk has a lot of power and some really strong connections, so no one could simply avoid cases like that. One fan commented, "It's obvious that Lil Durk's lawyers put the blame about King Bond, most likely claiming that Bond did everything and Durk had nothing to do with it. I'm pretty sure that this case would have turned out differently had Von been alive. Another person added that Durk is connected to some powerful people and does influence talks. Having said that, it raises questions about whether the ATL police are acting consistently because they brought in a number of YSL members despite the fact that they obviously lack sufficient evidence to charge them and deny bonds to Gunna. Thug on multiple occasions, but they chose to drop charges against Durk, whom they caught on camera committing a crime. Something's wrong, man. We'll have to wait and see how this whole ISL situation plays out. What initially appears to be a very bleak future for everyone involved in the Young Slime Life clique may not be as bad after all. We have to wait until next year to see how things work before we make any kind of statement, but the contradictions we've seen in the ATL law enforcement's work make you wonder. What's going on, man? Maybe Dark is just one exception. The man has a lot of power, so maybe his legal team is responsible for everything. If it were for them, who knows if Durk would have had his charges dropped. It reminds us of an NBA kid who had an insane victory against gun charges the last time, and his lawyers got him out of trouble. Maybe little Durk just went through the same thing. What do you guys think about the recent developments with? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching all the way through, and as always, remember to keep it music real. Do you think Lil Durk has a fantastic team of lawyers? Did the police department just make a stupid mistake? Do you think they have enough evidence on Thugger and Gunner, or will they be kept inside for other reasons? Somewhat of a divisive figure, but whether you love them or not, there is a great deal of tragedy in his past. Some people even go so far as to say that he is cursed, while others argue that it isn't. This is just the way things go when you grow up in a deeply ingrained Chicago gang culture, and there isn't really any other way to live in that setting. It all began to come to everyone's attention back in 2014 when Durk appeared on Vlad TV and stated that he has lost between 20 and 30 of his friends to gang violence or violence in general during his life, and that was 7 years ago at the time of this video in 2021. We can only assume that more of his loved ones have passed away by now, but hold on, we're getting ahead of ourselves on this one. Instead of jumping in, we'll explain Lil Durk and why his life is more tragic than you think. Durk was born in 1992 in Chicago. Durk Derek Banks' father was incarcerated when he was born, so he frequently went without food during his early years. As he grew older, he became well known on social media, sharing some of his early songs on different accounts. After a while, he joined some street games, including the Black Disciples. This didn't exactly work out well for him right away because he was arrested in 2011 for possessing a firearm with a defaced serial number. Eventually, the charges were dropped and he was spared. Incarceration became a defining chapter in the life of this rising star, but it wasn't the end of his story. Despite serving time in 2011, the period in prison seemed to be a turning point, as it was during this time that he realized the full potential of his career. By the time he was locked up, several of his singles had gained traction and he was beginning to build a name for himself. This recognition grew even more when he flooded the mixtape scene, releasing a substantial amount of material on the popular mixtape platform DatPiff. His music, raw and authentic, resonated with a growing fan base, yet there was still a sense of untapped potential waiting for the right moment to break through. Although he had initially planned to sign with Chief Keef, that opportunity eventually fell through, but it didn't deter him. The experience seemed to strengthen his determination to succeed in music. His persistence paid off when he was eventually signed to the iconic Def Jam Records, a major milestone in his career. By 2014, his star was undeniably on the rise as he became a member of the coveted XXL freshman class, a recognition that marked him as one of the brightest up-and-coming talents in the rap game. That year also saw the release of his fourth mixtape, Signed to the Streets, a project that solidified his place in the industry and gave him the platform to showcase his true artistic identity. Despite the professional successes, however, his personal life was riddled with loss and tragedy. Behind the scenes of his rising fame, the toll of constant grief weighed heavily on him. Over the years, he had witnessed far too many of his friends and loved ones pass away. Now, as he reflects on that time, he reveals that he receives a call nearly every day, notifying him of another loss in his close circle. The pain of losing people is something he says has become all too familiar, but no matter how many times it happens, the emotional impact never fades. In fact, he claims it's the sheer regularity of it all that's the hardest to cope with. The idea that someone close to him could be gone in an instant became a harsh reality he was forced to accept, and it is something that still lingers with him every day. Long before he became a household name in rap, he had already faced the sting of loss. One of his earliest and most significant losses occurred before he even began his musical journey. He lost his first close friend, Lil Mo, and the grief from that moment stayed with him. In a way, Lil Missouri's death set the tone for much of his music and personal outlook. The pain of that loss echoed in his lyrics, and in the years that followed, he dedicated some of his earliest songs to his fallen friend. The dedication to Lil Missouri was not just a reflection of the past, but also a symbol of the unshakable bond they had shared, one that lived on through his music. Among the songs that defined his journey was L's Anthem, a track that resonated deeply with his audience. The song, which touches on the theme of losing battles and rivals, is filled with direct diss lyrics aimed at his enemies. It's a raw, unfiltered look at the environment he was immersed in, one that he could not escape no matter how far he tried to distance himself from it. The song reflected the realities of his life, and while the aggression and diss tracks caused some controversy, they were undeniably a product of his circumstances, his environment, his losses, and the constant pressure he felt from the streets. This was not just music for him, it was therapy, a way of dealing with the pain and frustration that came with his life experiences. The loss of his close friend D-Thing was another tragedy that shaped his persona and his music. At just 18 years old, he was devastated by a shooting that claimed the life of D-Thing, someone who had been by his side through thick and thin. To honor his fallen friend, he tattooed D-Thing's name on his shoulder, a symbol of loyalty and remembrance that would stay with him forever. This tattoo, like his music, became a permanent mark of the pain he carried with him, a reminder that even as his fame grew, his roots, his past, and the people he had lost would always be a part of him. This act of remembrance became not just a personal tribute but also a reflection of his resolve to keep moving forward, despite the grief that threatened to consume him. Throughout his journey, from the struggle in prison to the success on Def Jam, he continued to battle both external and internal demons. His music, filled with raw emotion, serves as a testament to his resilience and his ability to turn pain into power. Despite the losses and the obstacles, he kept pushing forward, using his grief as fuel to make it to the top. Not only that, but he was still living on the streets even though he was making music almost all the time and working hard to get where he wanted to be. You know, you can't really get away with this kind of thing in Chicago, and Durk was growing in popularity, so it was inevitable that he and those close to him would lose just as much as they always had, if not more.
Yeah.
In 2015, Durk was playing in Philadelphia, but it wasn't going to be exactly what people had hoped. Although Durk was unharmed, a man wearing an OTF shirt pulled up and began shooting at Lil Durk's tour bus. This isn't even the curse exactly, it gets worse than this. There are just some rather unpleasant incidents surrounding the curse of Lil Durk. A video that has been making the rounds on the internet for a while claims that there has been a real, eerie supernatural curse following Lil Durk for the past 10 years. Additionally, the curse is said to have progressively worse effects on those around him. Those who have been impacted have been hospitalized, imprisoned, and even killed. While we won't comment on whether or not we believe what is happening here, we will highlight some rather strange coincidences that the entire myth discusses. J Money is the first victim of the curse, and it appears that J Money from O Block was set up at 2 p.m. He was supposed to meet up with a romantic interest, but instead he was shot in the head by some ops after he attempted to escape through some back alleys nearby. Pluto, who is said to have been a very close friend of Durk, was involved in a car accident where his car repeatedly rolled over into its side. After his death and the murder of J Money, Durk took to Instagram to share a few words about the incident and to honor his late brother. Pluto is said to be cursed. Acquired tattoos to honor Pluto as well. D. Rose was another individual who was allegedly impacted by the curse, though this particular case seems dubious because he didn't die but was only sentenced to 40 years in prison. D. Rose and some friends pulled up on a parked car and fired handguns inside, striking a 14-year-old boy. Obviously, he had the book thrown at him on this one and he deserved to be in prison for it. However, depending on who you ask, D. Rose was only 17 at the time. On the side of law enforcement, the next individual implicated in the curse is a man named Bob O. He and his friends broke in and robbed a year-old man who was inside. He was struggling in the hospital and died 3 weeks later.